What's up, you guys? Welcome. Come on in. We have a very special edition of the Teacher Project 2.0 tonight. We will be speaking with an educator that exemplifies all the things that we try to bring you guys. We try to highlight teachers, educators of color, young, he's young, that has been in the field and is doing some great things in the field of education. So we're going to bring him up in a second. How you doing today, Doc?
I'm good. How are you, my love?
I'm great. Life is life but I am
We know.
good. I am good.
I'm gonna have to tell
So
you something backstage. You're gonna cuss me out. It's okay. No, we'll talk about it backstage. Don't do that.
me and him just had a whole conversation and he waited till now to tell me
I
he had
did.
something to tell me.
I did.
You see
I
what I'm saying?
absolutely did.
Anyway, we are bringing up Darius Williams. Darius Williams is an author and educator, so we're going to bring him to the stage. Hey, boo.
What's going on?
I'm good. So his face may be familiar to those of you that are a fan of the Chasing brand. He is one of the co-hosts on the group chat over on the Chasing Reality brand. What's funny is I would say you're like the one that keeps everybody sort of, even you got
Kind of like I
Crazy
do
George.
over here.
No, not at all. You got George and Travis doing what George and Travis, what they do. And listen, I give you kudos for keeping it to it. Right.
That's what I have to do over here with this one over there. I have to.
Anyway, listen, your actions speak louder than words. I don't need to tell you. You'll see it for yourself, okay?
Uh-oh.
But I became intrigued when I found out that you wrote children's books. Yes. And then I found out your background as an educator. And I was like, you know what? I want to get Darius over to the Teacher Project because, again, when El Teddy and I started this podcast, we didn't know that the world was going to change. Like, literally, we started the podcast in January, and the January before the pandemic. And so it totally changed sort of our trajectory because the world changed. But one of the things we wanted to do was definitely focus on students of color, students who are part of the LGBTQIA community. And we've definitely been focusing a lot on legislation that affects those demographics of educators as well as students. So I've been really wanting to get you so
happy. Just to interject real quick, I think I'm pleased with what the pandemic did to what and I definitely will ask. That's one of the questions I definitely want to ask you about how the pandemic may have changed the trajectory of how you see education, where you fit in education. So because it definitely changed our trajectory, even my own professional trajectory going into in education. So yeah, all of that. So tell us what you do.
So I have
tell us about yourself. Oh.
Wait a minute, I was going to say real quick. I have pinned the link to Darius's link on Amazon to purchase one of his books, and you can also find his website in the description box. I just want to before we get into the questions, I just want to read you guys sort of his mission statement. And it says, "I'm proud to be a Black-owned book company housed on creating stories that reflect the diversity and positive imagery of our Black community. My mission is to increase the representation of Black children in literature while also providing books that meet the needs of all children. I believe that everyone deserves to see themselves in the stories that they read, and I am committed to making that a reality." So everybody welcome Darius Williams to the platform.
Thank you, El Teddy. Thank you, El Teddy, and thank you, Really B. It's really a great honor to be here with you all. I know this has been a while in the making, so I'm glad that we're able to make it happen. I am Darius. I am a lifelong educator. I started my career as a fourth grade teacher here in Atlanta, Georgia, and it was a really great experience. I had the opportunity to teach there for a couple of years, but while I was there, I did have my principal approached me, and she wanted me to have to start an enrichment activity. And educators know, like, when they start talking about doing extra stuff, a lot of times extra stuff doesn't come with extra pay. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm already here every day from 7:10 to 3:10 or 7:10 to 4:10. What's this looking like? What's this after school program situation looking like in terms of compensation? And there was no compensation. And so I was
No.
like, no, I'll pass. I was that teacher. Like, I'll pass on the extra curricular stuff because, it has to make sense. I'm already dedicating a lot of my time to this. And so they announced the enrichment activities, and all of the children were excited about all the different groups, the dance team and the cheerleaders and the whatever, all the different clubs that they had going on, the reading club and the math club, all the different clubs. And there was a girls mentoring group that that a couple of my friends had been doing for a couple of years. And so this girls mentoring group was a big thing. All of the girls in the school wanted to be a part of it. There was a rigorous process to become a part of this girls mentoring group. And so the boys ran up on me at recess and they were like, "You're the only male teacher at the school. It's not fair that the girls get to have a mentoring group and the boys don't have, a club that's dedicated to just the boys." And so I'm like, damn, can I curse up here?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, feel free.
It got me. The
She
children
cuss
were able to pull something out of me.
all the time.
Oh, she cuss all the time. Okay.
Uh-huh.
My mouth, I know how to watch it, but that's why I asked. So the boys, I felt an obligation to them when they asked for this mentoring group. And so I was like, okay, let me find some curriculum and let me, start up this mentoring group. So I started the mentoring group for the boys in 4th and 5th grade. And I went to Google to find an existing curriculum that had, mentoring topics for Black boys and looking for books that would align with those topics. And nothing of that sort existed back in 2015. And so that's when I decided that I would start my book company, King Darius Books. And so I started with my first book, DJ's Favorite Day. And that was one of our topics was career exploration. So that was kind of my segue into it. And that went very well. And so I decided to write my second children's book, Twinkle Little Star. And having seen the success and the way that children resonate with the books, it just excited me about helping other people publish their books, as well as continuing to publish other books. So that's been my journey to publishing children's books, stemming from being in the classroom. And that was at the start of my career.
How old are you now?
I turned 31 back in March.
Okay. And I asked that for the specific reason. How old were you when you started in the classroom, and how long did you stay in the classroom?
Okay, I started in the classroom 10 years ago 9 years ago in 2015. And I stayed in the classroom for 2 years. And I'll say after my first week of school, my principal came up to me during dismissal and she told me, "I give you a year, 2 years tops, and you'll be on doing, things at a larger scale." And I was like, I don't know what.
Oh, okay.
And that was, for me as a first year teacher, I'm like, girl, I can barely get the kids to dismissal, but she really believed in me and she saw something in me. And so she set me up with a lot of opportunities that gave me an opportunity to be a leader in the school and to also get some highlight from the district. And so when I left the classroom to pursue a coaching role where I was able to help other educators with personalized learning and technology integration. So I've been out of the classroom for 7 years, but I've been supporting teachers for my entire career.
Awesome.
Okay. All right. I love to hear. That's we can listen, everybody here knows I'm at a crisis in where I am now and where I want to go as far as education. I've been in the classroom a lot longer than that, but and you shut up.
Lot longer. The world was in black and white when she started.
Stop it. But you know what? That's the reality that's the reality for all of my teacher friends. I don't have a single teacher friend who is excited about being a teacher. And that kind of it's heartbreaking, because the state of education, we're in such a fragile place, especially coming out of the pandemic. And I think that a lot of news has broken over the past couple of weeks with Atlanta Public Schools, particularly, that has people excited about a little more
pay raise,
or that 11% raise, and then being able to dress down a little more, like small things like that. But all in all, like all of my teacher friends reach out to me weekly, monthly, daily, looking for ways to transition out of the classroom. And I just really think that this teacher shortage that we're experiencing is going to be exacerbated even more in the coming years.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, it is. I mean, I again, I know what's going on in my hold on. I know what's going on in my district, and it's and we just got a pay raise. We got a decent pay raise too last year, and you still have people that's like, so yeah. Go ahead. What were we gonna say, Teddy?
Yeah.
I wanted to tap into when you talked about the young boys that reached out to you. Was this a predominantly Black school?
Yes.
Okay.
On the southwest side of Atlanta. So a lot of people are familiar with like the Cascade area. That's where a lot of the affluent Black families live or have lived. You think about like Keisha Lance Bottoms, Candy Burris, like a lot of them live on that side of town. And so my school was uniquely situated because I had parents who were doctors and lawyers and preachers at mega churches. But then right down the street, 2 minutes, you have Fulton Industrial, which is where a lot of our transient families lived in extended stay motels. And so we had a good mix of different SES even within the Black community. And what made me proud of that school was that the community was all hands on deck in that school. I mean, it was nothing for parents to be in the school day in and day out. My students never had to worry about paying for field trips because if the field trip cost $10, a parent would just come and bring $300 so that, you know, all of the students could go on the field trip. So it was one of those uniquely positioned schools because we still had all Black students, but we had them coming from varying SES.
One of the things that I wanted to ask you about was on my end, especially in latter years, I worked curriculum, specifically gifted and talented, high school mainly, some middle school, but mainly high school. But a lot of my focus was on one of my focuses was on not just AP curriculum, but specifically minority AP curriculum and Black boys, high school level. And and you talked about teaching 4th and 5th grade, where usually that's where that transition happens. They love the Black boys, kindergarten to 3rd grade, but once they get to about 4th, 5th grade, that's where they become thugs, criminals, miscreants, and so forth. And so by the time I get them, high school, late middle school, the trajectory is already set. And it was like pulling teeth to get teachers to have curriculum that could engage them. But I'd love for you to talk about what that was like being at that pivotal moment for those Black young men, 4th and 5th grade, where they're trying to find themselves out, and the world is a lot of times against them.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think that, in response to that, my mentoring group, I think a lot of times when you have extracurricular activities like this, there are concerted efforts to keep certain students out of them. So they'll do things like slap a GPA on it, or they'll say, if you get discipline referrals, you can no longer participate. And I was very intentional about, okay, these boys are the ones who need it more so than Emmanuel. Emmanuel is going to rock it out with or without my support. He's going to be straight A's. He's going to be in the gifted and the talented program. That's not necessarily who I'm targeting for this type of program. I need the boys who I do see veering off the wrong path. I need the boy who's going to curse me out on the field trip, and I might have to whisper and cuss him right back out, but you know that I care about you at the end of the day. And so having that mentoring group, I think, was just a great opportunity, not only for me, but for those boys, because they knew that they had someone in their corner who cared about them. And that's something we talk about a lot. When does our Black boy go from being this cute kid to being a danger or threat to society? And I think that, a lot of times it's us, like, we help push that narrative as well. And so I think that it's our duty, especially as the 2% of Black men in education, to make sure that we're changing that narrative and stopping it, before they get to a middle school where things are more consequential, or they get to high school and now it's not just about being an ISS or being suspended. Now we're talking about juvenile delinquency, and we're talking about being locked up somewhere like you're a grown man. So it is one of those situations where you catch them right before middle school, if you can, and if not, that might not ever happen. I know even for me, I recently I was laughing when you called me really young, really B, because recently I watched my fourth graders, my first group of fourth graders graduate from high school, and I've really been like,
that's a good feeling.
They've all been graduating.
Yes, that first graduating class, when that first class is like,
you love them. They will forever reach out to you. They will always, I don't care how old they get, they will always, you'll always have that bond. That first class, you will have a lifelong bond with them.
And I found myself getting choked up at graduation because there was one knucklehead that I have worried about when you have these children for those 180 days, I think a lot of people think, okay, next year you get another group of students, but those children stay on your mind forever. And there was one in particular that I got to see walk across that stage, and I was just like, man, I am glad that it went this way, because I could see at 9 years old, at 10 years old, it going a completely different way. And it's been good because I have gotten one call out of these 9 years where someone they got caught up with the ketchup, and they had to go, and they wanted a character statement,
witness character statement. Yeah.
And that's something that you worry about, like, where are they, like, how are they doing? Have they gotten it together? Are they finding their outlets? Have they found their passions? Do they know what they're going to do when they grow up? And that's something that I would say, if someone asked me in teaching what would keep me up at night, it's just making sure that those children are still good, and being able to see a lot of them, I think, was a good experience for me, because like you said, Teddy, like, it happens, and it's something that you have to be concerned about.
I know. So that brings me actually to a good point. A couple of weeks ago, Teddy and I had a conversation here about the viral video of the teacher that had the kids doing his hair, right? And the conversation that we were having, that we were trying to get through to, I'll speak for myself, that we were trying to get through to people, is you can build those relationships without blurring the lines. Like, I'm still the adult, you're still the child, but you can still build those relationships. So as somebody who is in coaching and has, supported, when you see these young teachers that come in that feel like, well, I'm just trying to get on their level, and I'm just trying to, vibe with them. Like, what are some of those? Or have you? I guess I should ask you. Have you had some of those conversations, and what do some of those conversations look like?
Yeah. So for me, I saw the video. I did feel like it was not the most appropriate thing to be doing. I was a little. My opinion was a little polarizing, because I did not feel like it was worthy of firing him. I feel like
he wasn't fired.
Right. And that was a big conversation. Like, should he be fired? And I did not feel like he should be fired. I feel like that's something you just redirect, right? But I know a lot of times teachers aren't connecting with their children. But when you do connect with your children, if I were to say in my classroom, like, okay, at the end of the day, I got somewhere to be, and this classroom is a mess, my students are going to clean up the classroom for me. My students are going to, when I was in elementary school, we clapped their races for the teachers.
Yes.
When I was in middle school. Yes. You know what I mean? So there are things, I know that when you build connections with children, I had a professor who every day after my Spanish class, I would carry her bag from the classroom to her car, because I walked her to her car every day. Like, there are things that when you make a connection with the student, that they're willing to help you do. Now, do I feel like the physical space needs to be penetrated? I don't. I don't want to hug, and I feel like it's a problem, but I will side hug if I do hug, like, So for me, I think
The
it's
Oprah
more
hug. You gotta do the Oprah hug. Where you
Oprah
clap your
hug.
hands and go like,
Oh,
oh yeah,
he does it.
just clap your hands. Oprah hug. That's what you do.
Right.
Just keep your distance.
And it was always difficult for me because I always wonder, like, is this the only hug this child got today? You know, and it's a side hug or a, you know, this right here. So I understand like lines can be blurred. I felt like this situation in particular was sexualized because people saw a conventionally attractive man and they saw girls servicing him in a sense. So I feel like
you know it's different for male teachers. You know it's different from, and he knows that.
But that doesn't make it fair because I feel like if it were a female teacher, if it were black girls braiding a white woman's hair, that white woman would have been the coolest teacher in the school. If it were the football team and they were shaving the athletic director's head or the coach's head after a football game, after a big championship, it would have been a big celebration. But I feel like there was a cultural sense to it as well with it being braids and the way that black people look at people being in their hair. I just felt like I don't know. I didn't like the way the tone of the conversation took something that was innocent and it made it something that was sexualized. And I feel like that was the real issue that I had with the whole situation.
Yeah.
If I had
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, if I had a teacher that I was coaching in that situation, no, because people say that optics are everything. And for me, I don't necessarily agree that optics are everything, but look at what that created. You know, look at the trouble that created for him. And for you to like double down and go live, like this whole everybody wants to be influencer, everybody wants to go viral, like it came, you know, and so you got to answer for that.
The unfortunate part is we focus so much on him. Think about the impact on those girls who haphazardly ended up going viral through no fault of their own and are being picked apart online, you know, in some cases unmercifully by thousands and thousands of people. And I'm sure that wasn't something, that they were looking for.
Right. You're right.
Right.
And, my friend posted about this and he was like, from a district standpoint, the district's thought is like crisis aversion. How do we eliminate this crisis? And the easiest thing would be to just cut ties with this teacher. But my thing was, what's missing from the conversation is how that's going to affect these students. This is their favorite teacher. This is a teacher who reportedly had, great results and, all these different things. Like, how does that affect the overall morale of the student body if they get rid of this teacher? So I'm glad that he wasn't fired. But if there were a teacher that I was coaching,
I thought he was.
Yeah, I think hold on. Oh, that's me. Sorry, y'all.
I know he was placed on administrative leave. I'm not if he was fired, and my other
no, he wasn't. I know the district where he. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I have a delay. I apologize. I have a delay.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I know the district where he works. He wasn't fired. He was moved though. He was put at a different school.
Oh, okay.
He was put at a different. Yeah.
And you know what?
But he wasn't fired.
That was my whole point. I said that if they fired this young man, the reality is with the teacher shortages nationwide, that man would have a job by the end of the week, and that classroom would have a substitute for the rest of the year. And
which they do.
And that you know what? And that's valid. That's a very, very valid point because again, I don't know if people really understand how severe this teacher shortage is. I don't think y'all really get it when I say y'all, I mean parents out there, laymen's. I am still in the school, so I work on scheduling and looking at the numbers and figuring things out, and I don't think y'all understand how bad it is, but I digress. But yeah, I think that what you gonna say?
No, go ahead.
What's that? Oh, let me go back a quick second. Let me go back. I have a delay. I'm gonna go out and come back in because I have a delay, and I feel like I keep stepping on you guys. So I'm gonna go out and come back in. But I do want to say this, Darius. When I was reading up on you, I see that you are one of my Morehouse brothers.
Yes.
I know you start. I think the way it's written, you started at Morehouse and you finished at Georgia State.
Well, I got my bachelor's degree at Morehouse, and I got my master's of education at University of Georgia.
Okay, so you are my Morehouse brother. Okay, because I graduated from Bennett. So see,
awesome.
we connected. We are connected. Now,
yes.
My Morehouse brother. I'm gonna go out and come back in because it's me, and I hate to feel like I keep cutting you guys off. So I'm gonna go out and come back in. El Teddy, you be nice. I'll be right back. All right.
I have a question for you though, Darius.
Yeah, shoot.
And that was a great segue that she did. As I watch a lot of these shows, be it YouTube reality shows or shows on network television that highlight or feature black gay or black queer people, I notice that there's this energy, or they like to spotlight people that aren't having amassed credentials, as I like to say.
Correct.
They want to feature the girls that are doing ballroom, or the girls that are doing, they're rappers, or the girls, and some of them may have some degrees or education, but they never highlight that. There's this almost seems like a concerted effort to lessen the intellect or intelligence of black queer people. And even those, a lot of them that didn't even go to school, are phenomenally intelligent individuals and gifted individuals. And I think there are so many. I think the numbers in some cases are diminished of those that have amassed certain degrees, credentials, do work professionally in certain segments or certain fields and things like that. And there's never the effort to hone in on that, to highlight that, or to feature that. And to me, what that does is it sends a poor message to the young black LGBTQ plus person that, hey, this isn't something that's celebrated, or this isn't something that you need. Whereas I'm old enough to remember a time when the world wasn't tolerant, and your only avenue to do something or get something was to go and get a degree and become a professional and really be that guy. So if you could speak to that, or what are your thoughts on that? I know you are in and around some of those spaces a lot. I live in Atlanta as well. I just don't go out and hang out with these people, I'm just saying. But but if you could speak to that and give your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts. And the first thing, because this is an ongoing conversation, especially amongst my friends and things, especially as we talk about me being around a lot of these people. First, I was always wanting to lead with, there needs to be a space for everyone, including the rappers and the ballroom people, and the people who are stylists, and the people who are
trainers and stylists.
Yep, all those entrepreneurs. Like, there needs to be a space for all of them. And I also think, let me ask you this, El Teddy, would you do one of these reality series?
There are some places where I am right now that will probably not allow that. I'd have to wait a few years, but there are some spaces that I'm in, and some achievements that I've amassed in some places where it wouldn't allow for that right now. When I have freedom, I may do that, but I'm not opposed to doing something like a panel. I'm not opposed to something that's not a reality show. It could be a panel, it could be a podcast or something that features and highlights that I'm okay with. But I don't know at this time right now that where I am, it would allow me to do the reality show.
Can I vote no? Can I vote no for him?
You gonna vote no for him, really? Me?
She knows all I got going on. She knows right now that would not.
I just think that his temperament, I don't know.
You don't know about the temperament being in the mix with
I'm
those.
a nice guy. They might want to fight me, but I ain't fighting nobody. I'm gonna fall on the ground and be paralyzed.
I know that's right. Go ahead. So I asked you that question because a couple of years ago, my best friend was trying to get me to do Chasing Atlanta, and not to say that I would have ever been cast on the show, but it was a hard no for me. And I think that for a lot of people who are, doing certain things, I even think about my friend George. George is one of my good friends. It was very difficult for him, I think, to be on Chasing Dallas and try to balance that with wanting to maintain his professional image and not wanting that to affect, his bread and butter, as you would put it. Like, I don't want y'all mentioning the name of my company, and or I don't want y'all talking, and so I think that it's both. And I think that a lot of times people who are at a certain place in their life wouldn't risk that for like a YouTube series. I even think like our friend Kiki, who's in Dallas, she was on Chasing Dallas. There were people calling her school district, trying to get her, trying to out her, trying to get her fight. So I think that there is a place and a space for it. Even for me, I had no intentions on doing In the Mix with Twixt. I've always told my friend, I love you, I support you, I'll show up anywhere you go, I got your back. But in terms of me being in front of a camera, me being in a confessional is not my thing. Not because I feel like I'm too big for that or anything like that, but because I have to worry about what HR is going to say if they are to see a clip of me. And even throughout that project, I was very proud of that project. I said it was a family show. We're going with family and friends, so it's not going to be all this. There may be some drama, but it ain't gonna be like no fighting, cussing out, falling out, all that stuff.
Right.
And I was very naive to believe that, because it became all of that very quickly.
Right.
And at the point that you're already in it, it's like now I'm being cussed out on YouTube, being called everything but a child of God, being threatened for people's brothers to come and gun me down in the middle of the street. And what kind of message does that send to people who are, who look at me as a professional, as an author, as someone who is a college professor, as someone who is working on a worldwide education team? And so it quickly got sticky, and I think that a lot of people would rather avoid that than to risk it, but I do think that, as I've spoken about earlier, that we need positive representations in media, and that includes reality. Like, every gay person is not the hairstylist, is not the wardrobe stylist, is not the good we have a depth to our community, and it does need to be seen. But I think, with the right group of people, I would tiptoe into it a little more, but everyone around me would have to have just as much to lose as I do.
Exactly. And I think that's the thing. If
that's a valid,
having something to lose, they will certainly temper themselves. They will censor themselves. You got to have people who have something to lose. Absolutely.
That's a very valid point. And I mean, to go a little, I apologize. I mean, I don't know where I came into this conversation, but to go a little left a little bit, this is a conversation that I've been having about reality TV in general, right? So when we bring you, when I say we, producers, when they bring you the shows that really are trying to tell a story and highlight Black excellence or just excellence, period, then y'all don't want to watch it. It's boring. Correct. We want drama. But then here comes the drama, and it's why we always got to be fighting. Why we always got to be cussing each other out. And it's like, production is going to bring you what they're going to make money off of, whether it's a web reality series or Bravo. They're going to bring you what's going to make them money. And if they put wholesome shows on and nobody watches them and they don't support them, they can't make money. It's a business at the end of the day. So I think that's a very valid point to make. On a smaller scale, and no disrespect, I love Chasing and I love Andario to death, but that's the tightrope that you walk as a producer to say, hey, I want to tell these stories, but I also have to make it successful. Yeah. And so I think that's a valid point to say, listen, I have to bring forth, if I'm going to do this, I need to be in a group of people that have as much to lose as I do, because there's going to be a certain level of decorum that is going to run this situation, because you already know I have a lot on the line. And I know that, you're right. That was the issue that George had. I know his first season, that was a big issue he had. And George is great TV because he is he's just a fool, but he definitely has this professional side, right? So yeah, I think that's valid as well. So that's a
Yeah.
very, very good point. I know if they ever made a real reality show, like I said, Abbott Elementary, I want to do a series called What Abbott Elementary Got Right, because I look at episodes of Abbott Elementary and I'm like, people think it's a comedy, but this is like 98% on point. Like it's
They got some
I
consultants that's
struggle,
in the classroom in that on that production team. I'm telling you.
I struggle to watch that show. I watched the first episode and I was so traumatized. I was like, because this is funny, it's funny, but baby, this is true when you are in
people don't
those
understand how
trenches,
real it is.
like
It is
buying
real.
stuff out of your own
That
pockets,
first
like that stuff
episode, but she
is
was just trying to
real.
get some. Exactly. And so, I know for and again, I think that's why, yes, representation is important, and I love hearing the story, your story as it relates to this is how my principal came to me, and I was like, you're not getting nothing free out of me, and then the kids were like, but what about us?
But Mr.
And
Williams, yes.
so, exactly. I was having this conversation. The struggle that I'm having with I'm an ally, and I am one of the faculty advisors for our. We don't call it the Gay Straight Alliance, but basically the Gay Straight Alliance. We call it
Okay.
something else at my school. But we've been having such a hard time with administration, with them understanding, because the other teacher that does it with me, the kids, he also has a gaming club, and a lot of the kids overlap, right? And so his classroom has become a safe harbor. Now, my classroom is a safe space. They know they can come to me. They know blah blah. Blah, but he's that guy.
Yeah.
One, because he identifies as bisexual, so he can have those. They can identify with him on that level, but also because he has created that space with the gaming, and he connects with them, with different things. And I've had such a hard time with administration getting them to understand. Listen, sometimes we're not meeting, we just chilling. But these kids need that. They need to be able to dip in and just have a place where they can just chill. And I don't think it's homophobia as much as it's just we're not comfortable because we don't understand it. Does that make sense? No,
Oh, it
Yeah,
absolutely
maybe
does.
not.
it does. It makes sense.
Okay, all right.
I think,
Yeah.
and I'll give you just to piggyback off of that. I remember my time in the classroom, and I'm El Teddy wherever I go. I don't change up who I am, and so I was always the only male in my department. I was an English teacher, so I was the only male, and I was the only black male at that. And so I would have all of the athletes from every sport that they would push in my class, right? But I would have a huge, LGBTQ population. And the weirdest thing would be I got permission to do lunches in my class for, some students that wanted to either finish work or do.
Right.
You would walk into my class and have the hardest of thugs right here, right at the same table with the gayest of gays. Nobody got a problem. Everybody getting along. The girls coming, like it's this whole community because they all just needed this space. Nobody hated on each other. Nobody talked about each other. Nobody made, and so it's so interesting when, and you might can speak to this as well, Darius, when they do see positive representation, not just of you being black and being a male within that space, but just being a black queer person,
Yeah.
and you can negate all of the stereotypes that
Right.
they've been taught all of their lives, because the only thing they know is you're an abomination, you too queenie, or you too fem, and you can't be that, and you can't have a successful life. They don't think that there is light at the end of the tunnel or success that can come with that. Or like the thugs say, oh, you cool, Dr. L, you cool. And they don't think you can be, and so if you can speak to that as well, because that when they see those examples, they really gravitate toward them.
There was an issue my first year teaching. One of the students had called another student gay as trying to read him in a sense. And so I pulled him out into the hallway, so we're, having a conversation about okay, why is this a read? Like, why is this your go-to? And as I'm trying to help them understand that this is not something that should be an insult, my principal overhears the conversation. And she immediately got upset. Like, why are you calling him gay? And why would you be calling him gay? And I always made an intentional effort to not like overreact, because of course the kids are going to make sly comments. They're kids, they're going to mirror what they see at home. And in my mind, I always felt like if I overreact in this instance, then I am giving them ammunition to use this as an insult, because it is something that makes people mad. But why should I be mad if you call me gay if I am, a gay man, right? So for me, when kids would call me gay, it would be up to me to decide, like, okay, I'm not getting offended by this because it's not offensive to call me gay. So there came a time, that was my first year teaching. All my students understood, like, this is not a read. This is not something you use as an insult. My second year, a new student came. Now my fourth graders are in fifth grade, and there's a new student in their class that didn't have me. And so I'm walking down the hallway, and he yells out, "Oh, y'all, there go that gay teacher." All of them is in the line like, like, no.
Abort mission.
So I was like, who said that? Like they were like, okay. They're like, oh, y'all, here you go. I'm like, who said that? These are fifth graders. So I called him out into the, I was like, oh, y'all, it's okay. He just didn't know what my name was. And so let me introduce myself. I'm Mr. Williams. And so when you see me, you can say, there's Mr. Williams. And you'll do that every morning when you stop by my classroom to tell me good morning. Every morning for the rest of the school year, he stopped by to tell me good morning. Now, in that instance, I could have turned up, I could have shown out, but that would have solidified to him that this is something offensive to say. So I feel like, all of my students who probably would have used that as ammunition my first year, by the second year, after being around me, they knew, I'm not walking around telling my students I'm a gay man. However, we're not using this as an insult towards me or any of the other children in the classroom. So,
right.
It's so funny how the students protect you better than you protect yourselves. Like that's what happened with me. Yeah, I would have the students, my hardest of thugs out there selling everything. They dared you say anything. I know you're not talking about
not this one.
I know they will protect you harder than anybody. Than you can protect yourself.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I mean, it's the same thing with me. I don't, to me, you call it somebody, like you said, the same thing. And I've had that conversation in my class at the beginning of the year, like you said, man, you gay, you this, and I'm like, okay, and and they're like, which, and it was so funny because they'll say, they'll look at me like, what you mean, and I'm like, and I'm waiting for the insult, like I'm waiting for you to, because y'all joning, right? Y'all joning. So where's the insult? Because that there isn't one there. I said, that's like if you call me fat, that doesn't hurt me because I am. And then the kids are really looking at me like, did she just call herself? Yes, because I'm fat. And I'm okay with that because I know what I see in the mirror. I'm good, right? It's not an insult. And so it was funny because, like you said, fast forward, there's always a point later on in the year where somebody will forget or somebody will throw it out there. And like you said, I don't even have to say anything anymore. They'd be like, now y'all already know that's not no insult, and in my mind, I'm just smiling to myself like, okay,
that's right.
Good, because you're right. That is the conversation, because they have been taught that that's an insult. So rather than cussing them out and getting all mad and going back to what you were saying, we're going to write a referral and we're going to call your mother and we're going to do all of these things. Let's process that. And that is a way that, going back to what I'm saying about the teacher that's a way you can build relationships without blurring lines, right? Absolutely. You build a relationship with a student you didn't even teach without blurring a line. You know what I mean? And that's when I tell people that those are the kinds of examples that I'm talking about. So yeah, because I used to do that even when I used to work at the jail. I worked at the detention center, and they knew that they couldn't say nigga, they couldn't cuss. So that's what when people say what they can't have kids do now, I'm like, I literally worked in the detention center. I literally had kids who were up on murder charges. Okay. And they knew when they came into my classroom, y'all know she don't like y'all cussing. Y'all know y'all can't say that. Y'all know y'all can't do that. Now, did they slip up sometime? Of course they did. They're kids. Like, yes.
And they would check
but it's
themselves.
the idea of them understanding that the expectation
is different.
So if I can redirect kids who half the time don't even go to school when they're outside, and when they are in school, they probably are those kids that are turning up and tearing the school up. Yeah, we can do it without blurring the lines. And they knew, I didn't let them call me friend. I didn't let them call me by my first name. We didn't. Now, did we laugh and joke and of course we did. Like, of course. But there's still that expectation, and you have to maintain that. And I just, those are the things. And sometimes I feel like I'm the dinosaur in the room. Shut up, El Teddy. Because I still hold on to that. I still, anytime I talk about my age and my time in the classroom, I already know you're gonna come. I know that's just open field for you.
I have a question.
Even though he was in school when Kennedy was assassinated, but that's another.
No, I was not. I have a question, Darius.
Yeah.
With you being an author of children's books, nonetheless, and with everything going on around the country with book bans, with there being ultra sensitivity to telling the true stories of Black people or true stories of the LGBTQ plus community, you even mentioning, having one word in a book that says queer, gay, LGBT, and that book being banned, or you having one word that speaks true to the Black experience, it being banned, does it alter how you go about either thinking about new projects or how you even address and introduce your projects that you already have out? How do you navigate that landscape in today's atmosphere?
That's a great question, LT. It's always in the back of my mind. And I think that one, being a gay man, just being in education in general, people already try to, make insinuations or innuendo about like, your whatever, like, oh, don't want you around the kids or whatever. So I've always been hypersensitive to that, but I don't allow it to impede upon my ability to make an impact. And so I think a lot of times, like for my first book, a lot of the criticism I got was about the father on the front of the book, because he the people say he looks a little, hold on, I got my background blurred. So let's see if I can change that really quickly.
Like, baby, put it right in front of your face.
Does that help? No, hold on one second. Turn that off. Okay, there we go.
Okay.
So they say the father looked like he got a little switch in his walk, and people wanted me to change that because they didn't want people to get the wrong idea. But I was like, these are children. Children are not looking at this character and saying anything other than what the book is saying. You know what I mean? And I haven't had any issues. And it's gay people that make those comments about the book, Meanwhile, I'm selling the books. The work is selling, like the work is selling. And so for me, I try to be cognizant of perception. But like I said earlier, I'm not a perception is reality type of person. Reality is reality for me. And so the other thing is that people would ask me all the time about my first book, which is about career exploration. They would ask me, am I DJ or am I the dad? And the reality is that when I wrote the book, I didn't envision myself as being either of these people. Right. It's more of what I would have hoped for a relationship to be like with my dad. However, the second book is a book that touches on self-acceptance and struggling with identity, but it's in such a subtle way that the average person wouldn't be able to pin it to that. And I resonate more with the little girl in my second book than I do with the father or the son in my first book. And so Twinkle Little Star in my second book, and I picked up the wrong copy. This one has a little not for resale sign on it, but this is my Christmas book. And with Twinkle Little Star, it's a story about this little girl who's being bullied at school, and just thinking about the things that make her different, and how they have kind of made her feel like a misfit amongst the other children. And then she
Mm-hmm.
gets advice that the things that make her different are the things that make her the star of her own story. And so I think that
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times there are ways to be creative in telling stories that resonate with all children without necessarily being explicit about concepts that they might not be ready to grapple with, or even that their parents might not be ready for them to grapple with. But I wish like hell I would have had, just to be able to have a real conversation about what I was experiencing as a child in elementary school that made me feel different, but I did have adults in my life who I feel were able to help me build my confidence without addressing my perceived sexuality or what they perceive that I might become as an adult. So I feel like it's a tightrope to walk. But I feel like even in my classroom, my first year teaching, I had one student who annoyed the hell out of me. I mean, he was just hovering, like always in my space, would not sit down. I had a rule in my classroom: you don't approach my desk unless you get permission. And that because when I'm at my guided reading table, this is time that's dedicated to these 4 children who can't read. Like don't interrupt this time. But there was just one student, and I remember the parent teacher conference. We finally broke the ice with his mom, and she told me, she said, "You know what, Mr. Williams, my son has really struggled with his self-image. And in fact, when he was in 3rd grade, he attempted to commit suicide." And she said that she's seen his confidence grow so much since he's been in my classroom. And he wanted to, because he wanted to wear the clothes I wore. They'd be out, and he's like, "Oh, Mr. Williams wears, stuff like this. I want to wear stuff like this." He wanted to wear the lotion that I wore. And, I'm wearing Bath and Body Works, like what back then, whatever the Japanese cherry blossom, or like whatever the girls, because I had things that I liked, and there were things that boys necessarily weren't allowed to do. And in that moment, I felt like such an ass. I was like, okay, I'm in such teacher mode that I don't see that this young man is trying to figure out gender expression. And in some instances, he's looking at me as someone who is able to, or a picture of what he wants to be when he grows up. And I think that for his mom to be the person to point that out to me, and for her to be like, Jimmy, step out of the room real quick. Let me talk to Mr. Williams and let him, put him up on gang and tell me like, I know my son is very effeminate. He likes girl things. I anticipate that he's going to be gay. He sees you as a role model, as a figure. I let him play with dolls, but when his dad comes over, like I gotta hide that stuff. So, I just want him to be steered in the right direction. And it makes me feel bad because there are a lot of children who do need that kind of guidance. But as a professional, that once again, those lines can't be blurred because that would be a hot mess. But it breaks my heart. Even a young man from my hometown attended my church, was on the praise team. I remember sitting in church like, damn, look at him. Like, I wish I could have done this 20 years ago, be on the praise team at the church. But that stuff didn't fly at my church in the end. And maybe right at the start of the pandemic, he committed suicide. And all I could think was, I really just wanted to pour into him and really like, take him under my wing. But that whole thing about not blurring the lines, once again, always goes back to there being a fine line that we have to walk as queer people. Yeah. And I think that a lot of children end up not getting what it is that they probably need, that type of guidance or that steering that they need to know that, this is a phase, this is a moment in time. In 10 years, these people, you won't know their names. They won't be able to pay your bills. They won't have an effect on your day-to-day life. Like if you make it through this, there is greater on the other side. I think that that's what's missing for a lot of children who are like grappling with their sexuality, with their gender expression and identity. And I think that it's heartbreaking because what can we do at that age?
And with that, what do you think about just even adding to what you said? In a lot of states, I know Georgia's one, Florida's one, there's a lot of states in the South where at public schools they're removing safe places. They're removing how you could put the, the triangle in your window or a rainbow flag, or they're removing all of that. They're removing resources. And when I say resources, to, mental health therapists or resources to help them try to figure out, what do you think about that, and how do we navigate that, um that situation where now our youth are being attacked. I say this all the time, on this platform and on my own platform. There's this concerted attack at LGBTQ plus youth right now. Like, it's almost as it- it's almost worse than it was before, because before they just was, don't ask, don't tell, don't say
Yeah.
nothing, we don't want to see you.
Yeah.
Now there's a concerted effort to say, oh, we're going to attack you. We're removing resources. We're
Yeah.
taking out of public libraries books that can help you try to understand who and
Mhm.
what we are. We're banning websites to therapists, to the Trevor Project, to places where you can go and we're telling our educators, you're not allowed to tell a student this is a safe place for those youth. And it's so heartbreaking for me
Yeah.
to see where we are, because I remember the mental duress that my mind was in
Listen.
growing up as a young queer. I didn't know at the time that I was, but there was
Right.
real mental anguish and duress trying to navigate what was going on in here. And I was talking to a friend of mine, and I said the best thing I could probably tell somebody to do is just be the best role model you can,
Exactly.
and give them something just to look forward to, and say, no, even if I never talk to you about it, you know what it is, you know
Mhm.
what's going on, and I'm gonna be this example for you and all that you got. But I wanted to give you an opportunity to speak to that, because that kind of went to what you were talking about just now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, like you said, it's a concerted effort. And I think that it goes back to all marginalized communities, I think, need to care about this type of move, because even when you think back to Don't Say Gay, I was like, all right, y'all on the board with the Don't Say Gay, but then what came after that? Then it was, oh, and y'all ain't gonna be able to get your
That
abortions.
was
And it was like,
DI.
all right. And now is
Mhm.
the affirmative action, and now is the
Mhm.
DEI.
Exactly. Now
You know
We've
what
been
I
everybody
mean?
screaming
mad
that
because
over
it's
here.
DI.
We've been screaming
Exactly.
that over here for the last 3-4 years. Don't Once you allow it for one marginalized community, it's going for everybody. They're coming for everybody.
I'm telling you, if you are not a
Mhm.
white Christian
It's the big five:
evangelical making
white Christian, male, heterosexual, and rich. That's the
making
fifth
money,
part. They don't act the
that's
rich
it.
part.
You got to make the
Mhm.
money. And my grandma told me that early on. She said that the Republicans don't care about the black male or the poor white man. And I said, you know what? You know what? Okay, I get it. But I think that it comes back to us, and where we've always had to find our strength is in our community. And I think that Black people as a community have to wake up, because at the end of the day, if you have a child who's struggling with their sexuality, with their sexual identity, you're just gonna stand here and look at them and try to beat it out of them, try to pray it out of them, and to the fact that they got to go and look for somebody to talk to about it, the fact they got to go and
Mhm.
find resources. I know, even for myself, my mom and I have an amazing relationship, but I remember spending months looking for conversation starters just so I can have this one conversation with my mom. And I finally found some. She beat
Mhm.
me to the punch, but I found some resources, just through being able to Google and to advocate for myself. But nobody's talking about queer education where I'm from. Nobody's doing that. And so when I come to a place and I visit like a North Atlanta high school that has a safe space or a gay straight alliance, it's
Mhm.
foreign to me, even as a 31-year-old man. So I don't know what the answer is, but I do feel like it is incumbent upon parents, like, if you care about your children, then you need to make sure they're okay. And that's no matter what the
Mhm.
situation may be. That we got children now, we got high schoolers. I had one of my students, former fourth graders, mom called me in tears, like, son wanted to commit suicide. This was last fall. I'm like, what's going on? Like, bright kid, good kid. What's going on? The kids at school are all smoking weed. And so, what are y'all going to do about that? If all of the kids are smoking weed, then they've all become addicted to smoking weed, right? So now I'm telling
Right.
you, well, you can't hang out with these people because they smoking weed, and you're so depressed that you can't smoke weed that you want to take your life. Like, what are we doing as a community to make sure? Because first of all, where are they getting this from? You know, so I think that it's a number of things, like whether it's drug use, whether it's, you know, sexual identity, whether it's you know, sex and you know, teen pregnancy, like alcoholism. Like, these children have access to all types of things. So you mean to tell me they're gonna have access to TikTok and to Google, where they can learn about all these things, but then they can't go to school and be supported in, you know, figuring these things out for themselves from people who really care about them? We're perilous
I
times.
know.
Perilous times.
Yeah, and it's funny because in listening to you guys, maybe I needed this. You know, sometimes God will bring you what you need when you need it. I have been so frustrated with fighting my administration, and El Teddy knows a little bit with this, but I know fighting my administration with making sure we are maintaining this space for our kids. Like, when I say they have been fighting us all year, and I'm like, what is it that you guys aren't getting? Like, why are you not getting it? And I mean, you guys just confirmed to me I need to okay, keep fighting. Like, it's somebody's going to get it, because again, I don't think people, and Majani, I'm gonna get to your question in a second. I don't think people truly understand that there are still a lot of homes where these kids cannot be safe in talking about what they're experiencing. And I was having a conversation with a teacher this week, and I said, some of these kids, we may run into them 10 years from now, and they are heterosexual, married with kids, living a heterosexual life. Because right now in high school, they're trying to figure it out. It doesn't mean that they're trying to figure it out. And it's okay. And it's okay for us to provide a space for them to figure it out. Like, half the time when they're in my room, they are literally doing nothing. They just don't want to be in the cafeteria. They just don't want to be in the bathrooms. They just don't want to be in the hallways. They are literally doing nothing but talking to each other, or we're not talking about sex. We're not talking about gay. We're not talking about any of that, but they are just in a space where they are safe. And I remember my first year, I had all these ideas, right? I was like, oh, you guys, for Pride, we're going to do this. And I want to do a balloon release. And we're going to get, I had all these ideas, and they were looking at me like I was crazy. And I was like, what's wrong? And, you know, my partner in crime was like, well, you know, a lot of these kids' parents don't even know they're here. And I was like, so what? You know, because even for me, it was a new thing for me. And I was like, what you mean? And during the pandemic was really hard because, well, it was actually easy, honestly, but hard but easy. It was hard because we couldn't get to our kids, but easy because we could meet with them easier because we could just do a Zoom. Well, back then we were doing Google Classroom. We could create a Google Classroom where we could just kind of hang out, right? And it wasn't weird, and the parents didn't trip off of it. So it was actually easier, but it was harder when they needed that time. So you guys have just kind of, whether you knew it or not, you kind of just were helping me confirm that I need to just keep fighting, because El Teddy has shared a little bit of his story with me, but y'all's story mirror each other a lot. I don't know. I know it because I know a lot of El Teddy's story, but when you were talking, you guys' story mirrors a lot. Even the church aspect of it.
Yeah.
And El Teddy growing up in a strong church home and dealing with, you know, like he was just saying, dealing with all of the different aspects. Majani asked a question. I'm not going to answer it. I'm going to let you guys answer it. She said, there's a young man at my church who desperately wants to be a cheerleader. We are from a tiny East Texas town, and his mom refuses to even discuss it. He now denies it. Should we reach out to her? I know what my answer is, but I'm going to let you guys answer.
That's a tough one. And it's a tough one. Depends. How old is this young man? 1, 2, you have to understand that, and I've told this to some young high schoolers as well. You still do have to live in that household under the roof of your parents, and you got to toe the line until you get an opportunity. And one thing I told a young man who just wanted to be able, I said, set yourself up and do everything in your power. Follow the rules, toe the line, but have a plan in place that will set you up that at the moment that you walk across that stage and graduate, where you go, oh, I'm going to school in a whole nother state, in a whole nother part of the state. Baby, I need to get freedom because now I'm an adult and I need to be able to express myself because sometimes, unfortunately, it may get worse if you openly defy parents. Like that could make a situation worse
Mhm.
because you could be thinking about if it gets too bad or there could be abuse involved, perhaps there could be, CPS or different, entities that may get involved, which may cause them to have to be removed from the house, or the situation could get worse. So I, he absolutely needs a safe space to go. But in
Mhm.
East Texas, I don't know that there is one. And that is
Mm.
unfortunate. However, give him outlets virtually, like what you talked about, really be where he can go and maybe he can't do it himself, but he might can live vicariously through this person. Baby, on my way to school, I'm gonna do high kicks and splits and stuff like that. Find ways to express yourself in little spurts as much as you can until you've gotten to that end of that tunnel and you can say, listen, I'm getting the hell out of Dodge because I can't. Nope, I need to be able to be myself. I'll let you go, Darius.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I was the same way. I wanted to be a cheerleader. So my dad was our football coach for recreation, and my mom was the basketball and the softball coach. And everyone in my family is 6 feet plus, and everyone in my family who went to college went on a sports scholarship. So there was a lot of pressure while I was at football practice, and I'm looking across the field and I see the cheerleaders, and I would have much rather been over there in the shade, stumping and kicking with them as opposed to getting run over by big linebackers on the football field, right? And so when my dad and my mom separated, I was like, do I have to keep playing football? And my mom gave me permission not to play football anymore, right? But I was probably in high school when I went to cheerleading tryouts for the first time. And I have a
Mhm.
younger brother. We're 16 months apart. So I guess all of the people had let my brother know because he's still playing football at the time. They went and let my younger brother know Darius was at cheerleading tryouts with one of my other male friends. There've never been male cheerleaders in the history of my school. And so my family, we ate dinner together as a family every night at the table. We talked about our day. And as we were talking about our day, my younger brother comes out of his mouth to say that I was at cheerleading tryouts. And so immediately I'm
Mm.
like, no, I wasn't trying out to be a cheerleader. I was just hanging out with my friends and I was just there. But I didn't have the courage in that moment to say, no, this is something that I'm actually good at, or the girl said I was good at, and this is something I actually want to do. And so I ended up not doing it. And that's something that I regretted later on. And I'll tell you, what's funny about this story is 2 weeks ago, one of the young gentlemen at one of the young ladies that I went to high school with posted that her son would be the first male cheerleader in our high school's history, because he made
Oh
the
wow.
cheerleading squad. And this is now that was 2008. So we're talking about 15 years later, like we're gonna have our first male cheerleader. And I just felt so happy for him, actually going through with it and being able to live out something that's a dream of his. I know he was on a basketball team in our town and not very, from what I heard, he was not very good at basketball. But because he also comes from a basketball family, he probably felt the pressure to be on the basketball team. And just imagine being on a team that you ride the bench game after game after game, and the whole time all you want to do is be a cheerleader. So for me, I feel like it's one of
Right.
those things like, if this young man does not get to do this now, he will forever resent and regret everyone who stood in the way of him living out this dream.
Mm-hmm.
I I would say, because here's the thing, parents know, right?
Yeah.
So his mama know.
Yeah.
And it sounds like his mother has been very clear that her answer is no. Now, I would say if you have a good relationship with her, if you feel like you can have a reasonable conversation, if you're like her good girlfriend or something like that, if this is somebody that's a casual acquaintance, somebody you just happen to know, I wouldn't step in it. It's just, but if this is somebody that you feel like you have a relationship with, because let's be clear, she knows. And I'm not saying that this young man is gay. What I'm saying is she knows he wants to cheer. Right. And she has said no for whatever her reasons are, which I'm sure we can speculate, but whatever her reasons are. So if you feel like you can get through to her or have some sort of, well, let's, if he does this, then he'll do this. Like if you feel like you can be his advocate like that. But if not, no, because I don't feel like you would have any more headway than what she already has in her head. You know what I mean? That's just my opinion. That's my opinion.
I feel you on that. I feel on that. And if I can add to it, I would say, like, I feel like my mom's biggest issue with my coming into myself was her being worried about whether or not I would be able to handle the criticism of other people, because a parent loves their child regardless. A lot of times they're worried about what the people at the church gonna say, or what the people at the school gonna think about me, like who did they think I'm. And I even in college had to have this conversation with my mom and eventually with my siblings. I'm okay, like I'm better off fighting against bullies than having an internal battle. And I feel like that's a lot of times what parents need to hear. So one, children need to learn how to advocate for themselves. And then two, as advocates and as allies in the community, I feel like we have to be brave enough to say, like, let the child live their life. And the best thing that you can do is support them to the best of your ability. But there was nothing that my mom could have done to change the trajectory of my life or my sexuality. There's nothing she could have done to contribute to that. Or there's, people say, oh, you baby him too much, or you let him around. Like, there's nothing that you could have done to veer me one way or the other. And I think that a lot of times parents just need to hear that it's not a fault and it's not your fault, So
I think too, sometimes parents need to hear, especially a lot of parents now, there's certain things you just can't buffer your kids from. I'm sorry.
Right.
There are certain things you have to navigate. There are going to be bullies out there. There are going to be hard times. There are going to be people that talk about you. It's going to be some rough days, and you have to learn how to navigate around them. You have to learn how to deal with that. And I think a lot of what I see in the younger generation is they so often have been buffered from having to learn how to navigate around those hard points. So when they do come, they don't know how to deal with it. They never built up the skill set to address them, deal with them, and how to move forward through that. And I think that that's something that that's a problem that there is too. And parents have to learn how to let them experience certain things too.
Yeah, and I think that goes across the board. So I want to say this: where's the future for Darius? What projects? I know you. Your latest book, and I'm getting ready, the link for anybody that came in late, the link is pinned at the top. So you guys please go and support Mr. Williams and his book. He has a new book coming out. What's about DJ? DJ has another adventure.
Yes, DJ has another adventure.
Come on, DJ.
I think a lot of people have recognized some similarities between DJ and myself, but DJ Stands on Business is my newest children's book. My first book, I focused more on like community helper type positions because there are a lot of standards in elementary that talk about those community helpers. So I wanted to get some literature out there that also aligns with some of the state standards. But I feel like it's also important for us to start thinking about entrepreneurship and business ownership, because a lot of times, the 9 to 5 lifestyle is just it's a continuum that we get into and we just remain stuck in it as Black people. Like we don't make enough money to get out of a 9-to-5 lifestyle in most instances. I think it's enough to live off of, and so for me as an educator, I had to have me a side business, or we call them a side hustle, my little side gig, my contract work, I think that for children, as they discover their skills, gifts, and interests and their talents, to start thinking about how to monetize them, because we're living in times where everything costs a lot of money. So I took an experience that I had, and I thought about how can I empower children to make money based off those skills, gifts, and talents. And so I wrote DJ Stands on Business. It explores the relationship between 5 friends as they go on an adventure. They use their skills, gifts, and talents to raise enough money because they had a goal of going on a trip to Mexico. And so as they are journeying together, raising that money, they figure out, they learn about budgeting, and they learn about, not living above your means. Okay. They learn about profit, and they learn about, setting prices and what a product is and what a service is and what goods are. And so I think that this is it's a funny little book. I think that my Chasing Reality fans will get a good kick out of it. And I think children will learn an amazing lesson from it. But my goal always is to just think about different ways that we can enrich the lives of children. So whether that be entrepreneurship or self-acceptance, character traits, I have a whole list of titles that I want to bring to life. And so this next one, I would be honored if you all would support and buy it for your favorite children. It's called DJ Stands on Business, and it is available for pre-order on my website, which is kingdariusbooks.com.
So your website, Darius's website is linked in the description box of the video. And again, the link to his other books that are listed is at the top of the chat. So we are going to absolutely support over here. I think a couple of people in the chat already said they went to Amazon and bought one of your other books that is already out. So again, part of my vision is that we are here, not just having these conversations, which I think are great, but also supporting the people that we bring on here. And it's been an hour and 15 minutes. It's been a great conversation, but I also want to let you know that you are always welcome to come back whenever you may have going on. The conversation. It was a great conversation. I told you I was the ninth one. And we can continue the conversation. But anytime there's anything you have going on, whether it's a book, whether you're going to do a book reading in Atlanta, or you have an event in it, wherever that event might be, let us know.
I don't get invited to none of the Atlanta events.
You just said you don't hang out with the people in Atlanta because they're crazy.
They be doing a lot. I go to Friends like once a quarter. That's about it. I'll do Friends once a quarter. That's about it.
And you got to get in and get out.
Right. You got me for a good hour and 15 minutes, maybe. Maybe I squeeze an hour and a half out. Maybe listen.
Listen. The older I get, that window gets smaller and smaller.
But I'm good for a house party, though. I'm good for a house soiree, kickback. Or I'm good for a house kickback. But these clubs.
Let me tell you what my new thing has been on a Thursday night, like this night that we're having right now. Bulldogs has a kitchen back there. And they be back there frying up pork chop sandwiches. So I would go
pork chop sandwiches.
So I would go, they like to fight and punch hard over that Bulldog. So I would go I go in there and order my pork chop sandwich. It take them about 30, 45 minutes to get it going. So I have my little cocktail, parlay a little bit, pick up my plate and leave. So I'm that window.
Child, that's enough time for these girls to get it going. Wait, no, Darius, Really B's coming in town in a couple weeks. So while she's in town, we could have a you should invite him to the gathering.
I actually talked to George, so we're working it out. We're trying to find a place. Because
that's my job to find a place.
Trying to get a reservation at a restaurant. They want your kidney, your firstborn child. They want your social security number. Trying to get a reservation for a large party in Atlanta is a whole situation. But no, we are putting something together.
I'm going to find a place.
Definitely. Once we get it together, you on the list, child, because I'm already talking to George.
George think everywhere he go, I'm supposed to be anyway, so I'm sure I'll hear about it. I would have heard about it anyway.
We're gonna have a good time. We're gonna have a good time.
And when I tell you, I troll George. I love trolling George so hard on Instagram and on TikTok. I troll him on TikTok. I troll him on Instagram. It is my favorite hobby. He'll post something, and I would be all in his comments.
I don't care. I don't care what nobody say about George. I don't care. Like, I know that he's a polarizing character in these streets, but George is solid as they come. I really enjoy myself.
Listen, I love George, and it's funny because George is a perfect example, and I say this all the time. George is a perfect example of you can't go by what you see, because when he debuted on Chasing Dollars, baby, we were not feeling George. We were not feeling George, but we did an interview.
I'm a horrible person.
We did an interview with George. That's when we used to do like the panel. This is because it was right before the pandemic, and we did an interview with George. And baby, everybody left that interview going, "We like him," and he's been my man ever since. He's been my ace.
But you know what?
Ever since.
I have a theory, really. I'm not gonna say what the theory is, but I'm gonna tell you my big three from the Chasing Reality that I love to hang out with, and people can't stand not nary one of them. My best friend, Oliver.
Yeah.
Oliver, the people either love Oliver, they hate him, but Oliver got it going on. Okay.
Well, Number two, me and Oliver are solid.
That George Sloan, baby, then that one gets me. That thing right there is a fool. And then Nicole Ray. A lot of people do not like that Nicole Ray, but I'm gonna tell you this: Nicole is one of the most astute business people that I know. Hanging out with Nicole she's a breath of fresh hair. Excuse me, hair. Look at me talking about a breath of fresh hair. A breath of fresh hair. And I went out to California to visit some friends for a week or two. Like a month ago, I was out there for a week or two, and Nicole drove up from the wine hill country of California where she lives, and she picked me up, and we went back out to the wine country where she lives. And Nicole got it going on out there. It's decked out. You don't want for nothing. Her house is just entertaining central. I don't know. I like Nicole, George, and I like a lot of them, but those three, I talk to them almost every day.
Let me tell you something. The thing about Nicole, because I like Nicole too, right? And Nicole but I'll call Nicole and be like, "Girl, why are you so messy?" And she'll be like, "Maybe I can't help it." Messy. She is so messy, but you know what? She is so self-aware. She is so self-aware. She will tell you, "I am messy," but what you just said is so valid. She is about her business, and I think that's the same thing about all three of them. People can say what they want to say about Oliver. People can say what they want to say about George and Nicole. But baby, when I say they stand on business, they stand on business. Yep. And I'm solid with all three of them too. And even when there's something that I don't like or I didn't agree with something, like I can tell them and be like, "Dig on my boo." Now that's my boo right there, Robert Ray. That's my baby daddy right there. That's my baby daddy. Don't make me start
blushing on here.
Not the baby daddy.
That's my baby daddy right there.
They say I'm the president of they say I'm the president of the Chasing Chasers club, child. So don't get me started up here.
Not Chasing Chasers.
Listen, I don't play about Robert now. And people can say what they want to say. I don't play about Robert. I don't play about Robert Ray. But George had me fly across the country for his daggone wedding birthday party. Because that's what I call it. I call it a wedding birthday party. Because listen. Wait a minute, we were sitting there. First of all, we knew it was going to be extra because it's George, right? But we were sitting there, and all of a sudden, the smoke. And me and Abby was sitting there, and then we saw the attendants come out and me and Abby said, "Are they getting married? Like, did we get invited to a wedding?"
Okay.
Because
had a whole bridal party.
Start throwing the little flowers.
Baby, let me tell you something. That wedding birthday party was everything. And I think part of the problem, and we're on a whole other thing now, but part of the problem I think is that these people are who they say they are.
Yes.
These people are who they say they are. Like Nicole really is a boss. Like she messy and she can keep with the best of them. But like you said, she really stands on business. She really moves in the circles that she says she moves in. She really lives good. Like it's not a facade. Same thing with George. Like George is who he says he is. You know, it's not a facade. He ain't pretending. He ain't putting on no fronts. Like he really is who he says he is. And the same thing with Oliver. Like we see Oliver, right? You know, he is who he says he is. And so I think that has a lot to do with it. No disrespect to other people on the platform or on other reality.
What she said is y'all ain't shit and y'all ain't got no job and y'all don't stand on business. That's what she said. That's what she said.
That ain't what I said. That is not what I said.
I'm just interpreting. She said y'all ain't shit and get a real job.
I didn't need you to do that. That ain't what I said.
I'm just interpreting.
We're gonna end it here because now he's about to get me in trouble.
I think that this is what I'll say about that. I think there are two types of people. I think that because even for me, like in terms of my business, I'm doing very well in terms of my, career in terms of 9 to 5, but in terms of my business, there's a lot I could learn from someone like Nicole or someone like Oliver. And I feel like there are two different types of people who look at you and see that you got it and they are like, they feel some type of way about it. But then there are people who look at you and see that you got, and it's like, let me learn from you. Like, let me figure out what I can soak up from being around you. Because while I know I'm very good at whatever my craft is, like I haven't figured out how to monetize it yet, or I haven't figured out how to make this a business. I don't know. Nicole got to spitting out tax codes and shit when we were in Mexico, and I was just like, damn, like, okay, let me sit down and take out my notepad. So I feel like that's a lot of times the kiss of death for people on these platforms is that they end up, as you said, about envying the people instead of saying, okay, like there's something I can learn from you. But
you always want to have people.
Everybody
you always want to have people in your circle who can help you get to the next level, who can give you something to, reach for and aspire to, and can help pull you up. So you always want to have some people like that. That's always important.
Yeah, and I think Bab said it perfectly. People, you want aspirational versus envious, right? Mm-hmm. I can be around you and not be envious of what you have, but it inspires me, and it's like, okay, now I'm ready. I'm energized. I want this for myself versus hating or envious that somebody has it. Of course, I can't stand that term, but envious of what somebody has. And I think that, but that's when you have to get to a point in your life where you start having to soul search who's in your circle, right? Who am I letting around me? Who, and again, we done went down a whole nother conversation, but
we're on the rabbit hole. I think we're an hour and a half in.
Down in it.
Right. And I think we all have come to that point in our life where we have to sort of reevaluate the circle that we're in, and sometimes realize that the skin that you shedding is the skin that ain't supposed to be there no more. And it's okay.
Woo! Now that's a whole nother episode. Now I'll come back now. Look, right, that's a whole episode right now.
You know what? We're going to come back for that, but maybe we'll invite George, Nicole, and to come on over, and Oliver to come on over, because that's a whole nother conversation. Because
so we can talk about shit.
Right. I had to go through that. I really had to go through that, and I thought I was losing when it was happening, and it hurt. Mm-hmm. It hurt a lot. But then you realize, you know what? Woo, that skin that I needed to shed that skin.
I always tell people,
gonna be friends with the rest of your life,
Jesus.
I always tell people, even professionally, there are those of us who have gone through traumatic situations, and sometimes you think you're moving forward when you're on a merry-go-round, and you're just going round and round and round, and you never know it. And it's not until something hard, blunt, knocks you out of that merry-go-round so hard, it's painful, it hurts in the immediacy. You're like, oh my God, how am I gonna pick myself up? How am I gonna get through this? This is the most painful thing I've been through. And what happens is you lay there for a moment and you soak for a little bit because the shit hurts, but then eventually you start to heal, and you look up and you say, well, damn, I was on a goddamn merry-go-round.
That's it.
And this thing knocked me off of this merry-go-round going in circle. I needed that traumatic event to happen so that I could truly move forward in my own professional life, personal life. and not keep going on this, because I would have never knew I was going in that merry-go-round had this traumatic situation not knocked the hell out of me off the merry-go-round so I could get hurt, look up and see, oh shit, that was a merry-go-round, and I wasn't moving forward, and now I can move forward. And your life is forever changed. The trajectory of where you go at that point is forever changed. And it's all because of that one horrific experience that at the time you was like, oh my God, why did this happen to me?
Listen, I'm telling you, that's a word right there. And I know we're wrapping up, but I'll tell you, after that second year teaching, I would probably have given teaching a few more years. But there was a situation where I had worked hard, got into school, $100,000 grant, started this lab for this project-based learning lab. And I never forget, got it up, got it going. And then on the last staff meeting of the year, principal sat there and announced that another teacher was going to be running my lab that I had been working so hard to establish in front of everybody. And everybody's looking at me. And I'm clapping, because guess what she did? She knocked me off that merry-go-round at El Teddy. And you know what I did? On the last day of school, I packed up all of my stuff. We were all packing up our stuff. I packed up all of my stuff. I made it to the stop sign. I clicked send on that letter of resignation. I didn't have a job lined up. I didn't know what I was going to be doing next, but I pulled out and I drove into the sunset. I must have made it 10 minutes down the road. 10 minutes. I got a call from the university that would be my next employer. And I always look back at that time like, I just felt so embarrassed. I felt so defeated, but had I not had that experience, like you said, I would have been right there, her just making me promises and snatching them back just like that every single time. And I have zero regrets from that experience.
Now look, we're going to end it on that word, because that's the best feeling in the world when you don't have no regrets about it. That's the best feeling in the world. None at all.
And then you have people that try to bring up situations from the past. You be like, okay, girl, we way past that. I don't know what you're talking about. We way past that.
I ain't even in that tax bracket no more.
Okay.
You better say it. Say it for the people in the back. You better say it for the people bracket. In the back. Okay. Because listen, I'm gonna say this and then we're gonna really go. I'm gonna tell El Teddy's story for him. El Teddy wasn't supposed to be in Atlanta. El Teddy got a new job. He was supposed to be moving to another part of Texas. He was coming to Atlanta for 6 weeks for training. Moved in. He was staying with his gay son. I'm telling your story for you. Staying with his gay son in Atlanta, keeping his little per diem, keeping his hotel per diem, right? Because they was gonna keep him at a hotel for the 6 weeks. But he said, shoot, I'm gonna keep that money. I'm gonna stay with my son, and we can do what it do for 6 weeks. El Teddy couldn't stand Atlanta. Hate it. Don't want to be here. Guess what happened? The pandemic.
Sure did.
El Teddy,
literally the week I moved there Tuesday, Saturday, the whole city shut down.
El Teddy's stuff was still in storage in Texas. El Teddy, how many promotions have you had since you've been in Atlanta? El Teddy running the whole damn department. So like in the reality, and I knew, of course, we used to talk every day. I knew what was going on, and I remember when he told me, he said, I don't know, they telling us. I remember when they called him and told him we're gonna move y'all. If you can find somewhere to go, we're gonna move y'all out of the apartments. And if you know anybody, and he already was living somewhere where it was good. You know what I'm saying? And his stuff was in storage for probably 6, 8, 9 months. Like, his stuff was still in storage in Texas. He couldn't go get it because the world had shut down. But in the interim, that job that he wasn't even supposed to have, they hired him on a position in Atlanta, and he done got about 3-4 promotions since he's been there. And so, the reality of the situation is, like you said, something had to kick him off. And that might not even have been the experience he was talking about, saying since I've known him.
It wasn't.
The
experience I was talking about, really be.
I need to jump off this bitch.
Divine alignment.
Really be. What experience I'm talking about. With the merry-go-round experience. You do.
Oh, I do know. I do.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so let's get right going. Y'all, thank y'all for being here. Now listen, I don't ask y'all for much, but I want y'all to go on over to DariusWilliams.com.
Y'all got nieces, nephews, godchildren, all kinds of little kids.
I'm sorry, what is it? It's King Darius. What is it? It's King Darius?
KingDariusBooks.com.
King Darius. It's in the description box.
Yep,
or go on over there to Amazon and get y'all order a book. Y'all got nieces, y'all have nephews, y'all have people in the family, you have friends, cousins. You got all them things in your life. And I want y'all to get a book. I appreciate that. I want y'all to get a book, and we are going to we're going to circle back around at Christmas time. We're going to circle back around. My girlfriend, the one I was telling you about that has the book festival in Louisville.
Yes.
She did the same thing. She has a series of children's books based on her kids, but the one that's based on her son, they're Christmas books, and there's a Black Santa Claus. Because she said, I couldn't find a children's book with a Black Santa Claus for my son. And so I think now she knows there's like 4 or 5 that exist. So she's the same thing. She was like, I wanted to see this for my son. So so we will but you guys, I want you guys to do that for me. I really appreciate that. And this has been such a great conversation. I'm so happy to have you here. And Darius is Darius is a sweet person in real life. I met him at the wedding/birthday party. He's a sweet person in real life.
He gonna be taking shots with us in a couple weeks. We gonna have a good time.
I'm down with all the foolishness. But listen, y'all, thank y'all so much
for all of the shenanigans.
Like this family in the living room having conversation. I really appreciate you, and thank you so much for promoting my projects. Y'all can check me out also on Instagram. My Instagram is right here, _King Darius. I would love to connect with everyone. And if you get a book, post it, let me see so I can show some love back to you. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to joining you all again. Yes.
Thank you so much. And again, the invitation is always open. I'm going to go ahead and shut it down now. We'll start a whole nother conversation. Be here another 30, 40 minutes. I'll talk to y'all later. And we are out. El Teddy, I usually let you have the last word, but we're not doing that.